Now, back to real issues, serious issues. Not that those ones were not serious. International Cancer Survivors Day takes place this Sunday. That's the 5th of June. On this day, those who live with the disease reach out to connect with each other, celebrate milestones, recognize those who have supported them. And are you a survivor? You know, you have a family member or a friend who has survived or going through it currently. Share with us. But chatting to us, we've got Mervyn Cerebro, chairman of Reach for a Dream, cancer survivor himself. Not only is cancer a reality to him and his family, he has lost a child to leukemia, but he comes across children on a daily basis who suffer from different forms of cancer and other life-threatening diseases. And our guest is online. Good to have you on Radio 2000.
It's lovely to be with you. Is that better?
This is quite sobering, I have to say. Now, take us through your insights into life after cancer and being a survivor.
I guess I could talk with you from two perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
My first encounter was my son, who was 21 at the time of diagnosis. And he died 2 years later, having spent in the order of 16 months in and out of hospital with ever-increasing volumes of medication and suffering the impact of the medication. And our entire universe transformed from the moment of diagnosis, in that all that you end up managing to do is function in one space, and that is the hospital, and clearly your own home, and you're not at the hospital. Nothing else matters. People who were integral to your world, in many cases, disappear because they're not quite sure how to deal with you. Mm-hmm. They love you, but they aren't certain as to how best to engage. And strangers come out of the woodwork. If you learn languages, you learn a language you've never spoken, you learn words you've never understood. You engage with doctors, some of whom are superb, and some of whom are completely detached and disinterested in your journey. And it is an unimaginable nightmare that you suddenly find yourself immersed in with no pre-warning whatsoever.
Yeah.
That was my first experience, and the loss of a child, and I've lost two children,
Sure.
A baby and my beautiful eldest son, is an unimaginable experience. It is a pain that is palpable, that is with you for the rest of your life. The 25th of May would have been my child's 42nd birthday. The pain doesn't disappear. It just somehow displaces and finds a place in your heart. And then when my child was in remission for all of 3 months, I contracted cancer. And I found myself the day after diagnosis in hospital, in theater, having surgery. Post-surgically, I had to have radiation for a prolonged period.
Sure.
And then my child relapsed. So we were dealing with
True.
my cancer and his simultaneously. And you suddenly realize just how vulnerable each of us is and how privileged we are when we're in a good space and when we're only worrying about the kind of things that irritate us.
Yeah.
Because dealing with a life-threatening illness is frankly unimaginable.
Yeah. Now, tell me something, because I can actually tell the pain in your voice, but you keep going. How do you keep going?
I guess that to some degree it's about choices, and it's also about one's own sense of self and a need to find ways of dealing with your pain, and in my own case, to try to engage with other people who are suffering the pain that we've experienced in order to try to help them to relieve the pain.
Yeah.
And soon after losing my child, I became involved in establishing a more meaningful South African bone marrow registry, and I'm very proud of the work that a super team of people have done there. And subsequent to that, about 18 years ago, I became involved with Reach for a Dream, which is a unique and very special place in which to work and function. And in that space, last year, December, we were privileged to work with 46,000 life-threatened children. And in dream terms alone, we fulfill between 4 and 6 dreams every single day of the year. And dream fulfillment, albeit that is our core activity, is but one of a myriad of activities that we work on with these life-threatened children. And we learn from them. I learn from them every day. It is just astonishing to observe their levels of courage, to experience their resilience, and their belief in the fact that they will get well and that they will return to normal everyday life and function.
Yeah.
Your question is a difficult one to respond to in simple terms, because I spoke only this morning to a beautiful human being who recently lost his son, and we talked about his ever-increasing loneliness as the numbness tends to disappear, and how people he thought would be there for him aren't able to be, and strangers, as I said earlier, emerge, and how lonely, isolated, and vulnerable we all feel as a family.
Yeah.
And unless you've experienced that, with great deference even to people professionally trained, unless you personally experience that fear, unimaginable sense of hopelessness, I don't think you can connect in absolute terms.
Yeah. Now tell me something. Just lastly, before I cross over to the news, do you find that there is sufficient support and availability, medical offering when it comes to cancer, or we still need to work harder to make it available?
I'm privileged to work with another entity which works exclusively with cancer patients. In real terms, we are hopelessly underprovided. Clearly, in the big cities, we have some superb infrastructure and medical specialists. As we move further out of the larger cities, it obviously becomes more difficult to create infrastructure and attract professional teams to work with cancer. And a really large percentage of community has one form of cancer or another at some point in their lives. And there aren't enough go-to places, either medical and or support facilities.
Yeah, that is so true. Well, Mervyn, it's been a pleasure chatting to you. Very, very sobering, I have to say. And all the very best. And, of course, I'm giving out the site. If you'd like more information, you can go to www.reachforadream.org.za. Thank you so much for joining us on Radio 2000, and keep up the great work.
It's been a great privilege, Mervyn, to speak with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much. Bye-bye for now. Bye. That's Mervyn Cerebro, chairman of Reach for a Dream, cancer survivor, and has had to go through some really, really daunting, challenging moments. Losing your child, then you finding out that you also are suffering from the very same disease. I don't know. I think from now on I must stop complaining, because I think I'm good. You know what I mean? I have respect. And if you're going through anything of this sort, or if you're going through what Mervyn has just shared, I suppose also if you'd like more info, like I said, reachforadream.org.za, just go there and find out whether you can also find assistance in terms of just adjusting and knowing how to manage or taking care of those that are suffering with cancer that are within your family. Let's find out what's in the news now. It's 2:00.
Radio 2000 News. It all unfolds here. Top stories. The ANC says it will not tolerate violence during the nomination list process and taxi fares to go up. Good afternoon, I'm Vabakshni Chetty-Miller. The ANC has called on its structures to act decisively against those involved in violence during the local government election nomination list process. The party today finalized its list of candidates for the 3rd of August local elections. Violence broke out in a number of areas, including Tshwane and KwaZulu-Natal, as members competed to be chosen as the representatives for their wards. Party Secretary General Gwede Mantashe.
People would think that if they are not councillors, there is no council. Many of them continue to bombard us with complaints that I was nominated and therefore if you are not putting me on the list, there will be a mass out of the ANC in this and that and that.
Santaco President Philip Taibosh says taxi owners will have to increase taxi fares to survive another petrol price increase. This after the Department of Energy announced yesterday that the price of petrol will go up by 52 cents a litre and diesel by 76 cents a litre at midnight. Taibosh says the taxi commuters must expect the price hike in July as they are now convening a meeting on that.
Due to the continuous increase of prices in fuel,